Welcome back to the
Woohoo!
128 KB podcast. We are back once again due to lack of popular demand. It is your weekly dose of all things gaming with two grumpy old gamers putting the gaming worlds to rights.
Indeed.
This week, I've got a healthy little discussion for you.
Yes.
I want to put out a meaty question to you.
Yeah.
Andy,
Yep.
what is the greatest games console of all time?
Oh.
Can I give you my answer first?
Yeah, go on.
It's this.
When was that released?
Well,
I was going to say on the back it should have a date. shouldn't
no, it doesn't have a
It
date.
doesn't have a date?
But it... Can you hear that?
Sounded like a goat dying. It's Space Goats.
It's a little keyring version of Space Invaders.
Oh, right. So it's not Space Goats, the well-known hit.
No, it's
Oh.
Space Invaders. It just sits in the background because I love it so much. It's not really my favorite.
Oh.
We'll get onto that.
Okay.
So the greatest console of all time. This is obviously totally subjective.
Absolutely. But I'm sure everyone listening's dying to hear what our greatest console
Yeah, and of course, this is going to be biased to the period of time in which it was released,
Yes.
how much gaming you got to do at that time.
Exactly.
So basically, when you were a child,
Yes, yeah.
and also what awesome games were out at that time.
Yes.
Because I would fully say that a console is only as good as its games.
Oh, absolutely.
Which
Absolutely.
is why I have such a problem with the PS5 still.
Yes.
As we've talked about in great
in a
length.
previous video.
Yeah, if you've not seen it, the episode will be available wherever you get your podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got such a problem with the PS5 because I'm yet to see truly PS5
like next gen.
quality games for it.
Yeah. I think really what stems from it is you're just annoyed that PS4 versions are still out at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, someone actually put me right on this in the comments to that
Oh,
as well.
really?
They did their research and stuff and quoted when the PS4 came out from the PS3, how long the PS3 games still came out for and overlapped for 3 years.
Yes, but was it the same or was that quirky random games being released for the PS3?
Well, his point was that some of the same titles were released, and they were. In truth, there was some. I think about GTA 5. GTA 5.
That's been released on every console ever made.
I'm sure I had
That's
that
now
on the Mega
available on
Drive.
the NES. Yeah, the Commodore 64. Yeah, great.
But I actually remember feeling quite strongly about that then, and I held off getting a PS4 for ages. And if I remember, for that reason,
Because you could still get them on the previous.
I think I waited until I completed GTA 5 before I got a PS4.
Have you still completed it on every console it's been
Yeah.
released on?
Do you know what's really bad is that I was in the game shop the other day and it was new on the PS5 for 20 quid, and I was like, yeah, I could actually buy that.
Considered it.
Yeah,
I know.
I was like, no, don't give them any more money.
I have considered it too.
Because it's such a good game.
I know. I haven't played it since the PS3 when it launched.
Do you know what? I'm not one for the online thing. I don't really...
Oh, no, I don't care about that.
GTA 5 online, it's for kids that want to play role-playing stuff.
Can I really quickly, since we're talking about
Yeah.
GTA, give you a little story?
Yeah.
When GTA 5 Online came out, my friend was addicted to it, and it just come out, right? And he went, mate, I can get you sorted out. I'll give you all these millions and stuff. And I was at uni playing GTA 5 because he could see I was online because my account would say I'm online playing GTA 5. He was like, play online with me. And I was like, no, I can't be asked. I'll just play the game.
Yeah.
And then he was like, no, I'll get you on. So I agreed to a date, an evening to play with him. And he spent, I think, 7 hours driving a car around for me because he wanted me to have the car. And I was stuck doing an assignment in a library until midnight and I'd forgotten. And he was so upset. He was like, I spent hours and hours trying to keep this car for you and not get stolen by some other player or whatever. And then I never came online or even told him I wasn't coming online because I didn't
So
realize.
savage.
I know. So sorry. I'm sorry, mate.
What was his name?
Tom.
Come on, give him a shout out.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Tom.
Yeah. Do you think Tom watches this?
No. But there we go.
Yes. So yes, it's the best console of all time is obviously just how you felt about it.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the objective best.
No.
And I think it's fully dependent on what the games were and and how much time you got to put into it.
Absolutely.
I think objectively, the best console is probably right now either the Steam Deck or the PS5, or
Yes.
objectively, because they offer the most
Yes.
performance or versatility. So you could argue. I mean, you could argue between all the current generation, of course.
Yeah.
But what for you are the kind of heavy hitters?
Well, straight away, for right now, I think the best consoles are, the Nintendo Switch. But there you go.
I would say objectively that's just totally false, isn't it? It can't, as a handheld, it's not better than the Steam Deck.
No, but the Steam Deck I don't see as a console. I see it as a handheld.
Oh,
PC.
we're going to get into semantics here. Okay, for the purpose of this debate, and this is probably going to throw you, handheld consoles are included.
Yes, I know. I've already been thinking about what I'm going to do about that because to me it's totally different.
And I wonder by the end of this, in 20 minutes' time or whatever,
Yeah.
whether we can agree on which is the best of all time. Because I
Okay.
think I've got a feeling we might,
Right. Okay.
despite
Okay.
I know what you've already told me before.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe.
But there's something I've got up my sleeve.
Okay. Well, I mean, Steam Deck, yes, it technically is like a console, really, isn't it?
Yes.
But I do love the Switch just because I love Nintendo and I love where they've come with it.
Yeah.
It's got massive limitations now and everything like that. But I do really enjoy it. Like just purely based on the fact that I've got one system that meets my handheld and console needs at the same time.
Yeah.
And being a handheld lover, it does both, and I don't need separate systems. I don't need separate games. I love the hybrid nature, which is why I love the Steam Deck so much.
I think in this kind of league table, I think the Switch has to be right up there because of how revolutionary it was.
Yes.
It finally managed to re-engage the handheld gaming market, kind of bring life back into it. In a modern context, they've always focused on fun gameplay or engrossing story over performance, and they've done that
Absolutely.
incredibly well.
Yeah.
And they really kicked off this hybrid handheld home entertainment system hybrid thing,
Yes. Yeah.
which I think is phenomenal. And
Yes.
it's what I love about it. It's what I like about the potential with the Steam Deck, 'cause you can do that.
Yeah.
Things like the ROG Ally that's
Yeah.
out now.
Yeah.
I really love that this is the
The
progression.
current thing.
I wish
yeah.
PlayStation had done it with the Q, the Q
It
Lite.
upsets me so much.
Yeah, but that's a different soapbox for me to rant about. I think the Switch has to be up there in this conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it is right up there for me. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
There's still things that I don't like about it. And I wish that there was a more like performance-based version of it now,
Yeah.
like a pro model. But regardless, the Switch is very highly regarded by me, obviously.
Yeah.
But so you want to know my all-time favorite that I can think of?
Yeah, okay.
Or do you want me to go through consoles I liked or had?
What would be next in your list after the Switch?
Oh.
We'll say it's like a top 3.
Okay. I mean, I want to say Switch was probably my favorite, but at the same time, if we're looking at older systems,
Mhm.
it's difficult. So my next handheld is to me so like separated from console. Like, so it's hard for me to lump them in together.
Not for this conversation.
No,
You've got to
but-
lump them together.
See,
Because you had them at similar times as well. I get
exactly. And I spent obviously different amounts of time with them.
Yeah.
And I probably spent far more with my handhelds at the time. So I loved my Game Boy Color. Game Boy Advance was right up there for me.
it. Mhm.
I absolutely loved that. But then so was the DS. But then at the same time, 3DS was so good as well. But at the time, the Game Boy Advance blew my mind. Like, that was
Do you know, it's
insane.
It's still a little technical marvel,
Yeah.
Game Boy
yeah,
Advance.
yeah,
For its
yeah.
time, I still think it's an incredible... It was 64-bit, wasn't it, architecture?
It's 32.
32. I always
Yeah,
get it wrong. I remember it being like a generation ahead of what it should be
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
time.
Yeah, I think the games were actually 16-bit, but they on the box, just like PlayStation 5 saying 8K. So it's
Yeah,
not 8K, is
shut
it?
up,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, whatever. I think it said 32-bit on the box of the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure they were 16-bit games. But
The games
you know,
looked great.
they're amazing. Like, they really were. But I think for me, like, the DS in particular was like a wow because of the dual screens.
Yeah.
Having a touch screen, having 2 screens where you could play like a racing game on the top with a map underneath. You know, all that kind of stuff was absolutely mental. And playing Mario 64, so the N64 version on a handheld, like was mind blowing, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's hard because every single handheld I've had that are like mainline, are basically all the Nintendo ones. I've had all the others as well, but the Nintendo ones were always my favorite. They, like my memory of each, I hold in really high regard.
Yeah.
And the same even going up to 3DS, which has only just ended, which is why I was like racking up, trying to buy up all the old games physically, because I was like, I need all this, because each one has just been so fun. And that's the main thing. Like, they've just been such fun gaming experiences. Even the 3DS, I enjoyed that 3D, the quirkiness of Nintendo. I just enjoyed it.
Yeah, totally.
But in terms of consoles, so I don't know. Handheld is difficult.
Don't go to your number 1 yet.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to do like proper TV stuff and save
Yeah.
Save that.
Coming up next, here's our break.
Andy's number 1. And now a word from our sponsors. MetroidT-shirts.com.
Here's a Metroid with a top hat.
I'm going to say, like, my third best. Because we're kind of doing a loose top 3 here.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really give you one a minute ago. I just kind of said every handheld.
I thought you said Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, we'll roll with that.
That'll do. Shut him up.
Any of them. I could probably justify any of them. Not the Game Boy Color. I loved the Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
But that didn't, like, the Game Boy Advance was what really blew my mind.
You know, at the start, I said, I think by the end we'll agree.
Yes.
I think we're not going to agree anymore.
Okay.
Damn it.
I loved the Game Boy Color. I still have
It's not
my
Game Boy
original.
Color. So
No,
we'll get there. It's
No,
fine.
okay. You can get there at the end.
Yeah.
But go on. Your top 3. Or your third.
My
sorry.
third, and I can't decipher if it's because of the time that it was, or just the sheer amount of time I got to play it, but it has to be the Mega Drive.
Yes.
Genesis, if you're in America or
Yeah.
wherever you are in the world.
Sega.
Do you know, just hearing that still fills me with childhood excitement.
See, every time I hear it, I automatically hear Sonic 2 intro start
Yes.
playing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's
yeah.
exactly what I hear. Yeah. That's exactly what I hear. Every time I hear Sega,
Yeah.
it's automatically that game.
And for me, it was the Mega Drive 2.
Okay, yeah.
Because I had the Master System before, and now I'm like really young at this point.
Yeah.
So it was mainly my older brother and sister.
Yes.
I had the Master System before it, and then that overlapped until the Mega Drive 2 came out. So then we got that. So I can't really remember the timelines. It was before I can really remember.
Yeah. But you remember playing it and having fun. you know?
Yeah. So we had the Mega Drive 2. The games on it for its time. I mean, obviously, it was in the time of SNES versus the Genesis / Mega Drive, kind of Mario versus Sonic and all that. I remember comic books. I used to get the Sonic comic.
Yeah.
And people would like send in drawings, like they're in fan art.
Yep.
And there was consistently fan art of Sonic beating up Mario.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, what is this?
I remember
you look back at it, you're like, why was that a thing?
But I remember even the Nintendo magazines used to have like fan art section where people would draw random stuff.
Mario
and
beating up Sonic.
Yeah, it was like weird. I've totally forgot about that until you just said.
Game magazines, they were cool.
They were good, weren't they?
Not just Sonic, because obviously Sonic 2, I think, still is a platforming masterpiece.
Oh yeah, it was great.
Apart from the multiplayer and its frame rate issues. That's just horrible to play now. But there's some games on there that really stick in my mind, and I bang on about it all the time. You know what I'm going to say. Flashback.
Yeah. I was waiting for that.
God damn, what a game. And I still loved it now. I would happily play it again. We streamed it a few years back together, didn't we?
It was amazing. Yeah, I'd never played it before. It was really good.
Yeah, really great game.
I mean, at the start, I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, it's slow. There's no music.
By the end of, us playing it, I was like, I really like this. It's good.
There's some awesome game memories on there. Road Rash was one of my favourite games at the time.
Nice.
And if you remember playing,
I recognise the name, and I definitely would have played it, but I can't think.
It was
of
like
it unless I saw it.
motorbike racing, okay,
Right.
which sounds really dull. But it's on streets, so imagine like Need for Speed is now.
Yep.
Yeah, they say like street racing, but you're on a motorbike. racing against other computer characters,
Yep.
but you have weapons. So you can hit each other off.
Yes.
And then the
I
police come and
remember
you can
it.
fight them.
Yep.
You can hit a car and it
I
comes all the way.
remember that. Yeah.
And it had that, it was slightly three-dimensional looking,
Mm-hmm.
but it had that arcade perspective
Yeah.
where you're behind the car.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Basically, the road's
Mhm.
moving and you're not.
Yep.
So cool. Road Rash 1, Road Rash 2, so much fun. Yeah, I think, if I'm honest, it's the time that it was released and how much time as a kid I got to play that.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's going back to the Game Boy Advance,
Yeah.
the same kind of thing for me, because I remember how I felt
Yeah.
getting it.
I also fully believe that it was maybe my point here, maybe slightly bleed into PlayStation 1 era, but
Yeah.
that was the true great era of multiplayer
Oh, yeah.
games.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
couch multiplayer games.
Absolutely, because there was no internet.
Yeah.
The consoles weren't on the internet, and so they had to make them multiplayer because that's what people wanted. And obviously, arcade games were multiplayer.
And there is no more fun experience in gaming than playing multiplayer, either co-op or probably competitively in some way,
Yes.
against the person you're sat next to. It's fun,
Yeah.
it's stressful, it's all the things multiplayer gaming should be,
Yeah.
but you've got that dynamic of being
Yeah.
next to the person.
It's so frustrating. Like,
Yeah.
it used to be so frustrating, especially if you're playing like,
Your older brother,
yes.
which,
Or what I always used to end up doing, because my friend used to have the consoles and I didn't. So my experience of the N64 and the Mega Drive or Genesis was my best mate at the time had them. And I'd only go round, and I remember playing Mortal Kombat on the Genesis, on the Mega Drive.
yeah.
And he wouldn't tell me the controls.
Oh, so
So
annoying.
they're there doing like all these crazy moves and stuff, and I'm just there like I don't know what I'm doing. So I'd just have to button bash, and it would really upset me because
Yeah.
I'd just be like, and it'd be
Yeah,
like, tell me the
yeah.
controls, no.
No.
And I was like, why? Like, this is not fair, And that's actually partly due to the reason why I dislike fighting games.
I never got on with them.
No, I love stuff like Streets of Rage,
Oh.
like beat 'em ups. I
do you know
love
what?
that.
They're some
But-
of my fondest memories on the Mega Drive.
Yeah,
Golden Axe.
yeah,
Jesus, that game was so good. Streets of Rage.
yeah. Final Fight 1.
Do you know, and as a multiplayer game as well, they were epic and frustrating.
Yeah.
'Cause you were able to hit each other and stuff by accident.
Yeah, that was difficult.
Or one person would run off and nick all the weapons or
yes,
the health.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the third one. Number 2 on my list, so I can catch up with you.
Yeah.
This is going to surprise you. 'Cause
Okay.
you would have thought it might be top. Drum roll, please. Oh, we haven't got any. We don't have
Oh.
budget for effects, do
No,
we?
no, that got pulled last episode.
It's the PlayStation.
The place. Well, no, Well, it's difficult now because what I would have thought would be your number one isn't now what I think it is based on what you said. We might agree on.
Oh,
At the end.
what did you think I was going to say is my number one?
Well, I don't want to say it unless it still is it.
It's definitely not what you're thinking.
Has it got a 2 in the name?
No,
It doesn't.
no. You thought it was PlayStation 2.
I thut you would be PlayStation.
Do you know what's
2.
really going to surprise you? Despite the games collection I have, which one day I'll show you guys, it's silly.
Not even in the top 3.
No. It's not even my favorite PlayStation.
I hate this. I bought every game for it. It's my worst console.
Do you know
I
what's-
bought all the games to despite
Out of the
despise
PlayStations,
it.
PlayStation 2, I think, is my least favorite.
What?
And I've got, I don't know how many. I think it's about 500 PlayStation 2
You've got
games.
so many.
I started collecting them because I realized you could get them really cheap. And there was a couple of
Okay.
games that I really loved on the PlayStation 2 and they were really cheap. And I was like, oh, sweet. And I had a few on the shelf. I was like, do you know what? I should get some PlayStation 1 games. So I started buying PlayStation 1 games because I do love the PlayStation.
Yeah.
But they were super expensive.
Yeah.
Even
yeah,
then,
yeah.
it's like 10
there's
quid
some,
a game. Like,
some of them go up mad
oh,
money.
yeah, ridiculous. And I was like, well, I could collect PlayStation 2 games because they're really cheap right now and will eventually climb up. And then I got a bit addicted to buying cheap PlayStation 2 games. And that's how it happened.
And then it went, I remember hating this game and my worst loved PlayStation. Yeah, I'll buy that.
I just think out of the era of games, I think PlayStation 2's aged the worst.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Okay. It's because that was like the big jump up to what we now know as modern games.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like that was the first
True
proper.
3D.
Yes, exactly. So they sucked.
Yeah, they do.
But,
yeah.
you know, and I think that's why they feel even worse now.
Yeah.
Because they're not retro enough to like
Precisely.
see that
Yeah.
big jump, but it's right on the cusp of what we now know. So yeah, no, I get you. That does surprise me. I genuinely thought it'd be
No. So
PlayStation 2.
number 2 in my list, the PlayStation. Sony
the
PlayStation.
Yeah, I've got love for that as well. I do have love for that.
I think it's peak PlayStation.
Yes.
The games, the franchises that came about in that era.
Grand Theft Auto.
Grand Theft Auto 1, which is best left in your memory, by the way. Don't replay
God, we were nearly sick playing that again.
it.
It's horrible.
So that style of Grand Theft Auto, you got Grand Theft Auto 1, GTA London,
Oh, yeah.
and GTA 2, which is also the same
Yes.
perspective.
Yes.
Top down.
London was my favourite.
Oh, it's amazing.
So
Just for the characters
yeah,
and the voices.
it was just brilliant.
They were fantastic games at their time. Now are horrible to play.
Their epilepsy.
Yeah,
disc.
they honestly give you a headache. And what was weird is when we streamed it, after about 2 hours, I got a proper headache. I need to stop.
Yeah.
And then I remembered having the same headache as a child.
kid, yeah. And I remember feeling really ill after we
Yeah.
did that, and I was like, I really feel horrible.
I remember feeling
And-
like this.
Yeah, and that was it. I remember feeling that back when I rented those games.
Yeah. It was also the era where PlayStation Magazine kicked off, obviously,
Yeah.
and you could get demos to like 5 or 6
Yes.
games every month.
Mm-hmm.
That was primarily how I experienced most games. And then the odd one you would be fortunate enough to buy. But you had Tomb Raider, Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9.
Resident Evil.
Oh my God, Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
I played the demo to that to death
Yes.
before I had the game.
Yep.
And then I got Resident Evil Director's Cut.
Yep.
Phenomenal experiences. Silent
I
Hill.
was just about to say Silent Hill.
Jeez.
There were some insane starts to amazing game franchises on PlayStation 1.
There's too many to really kind of to go through. There's just too much. The PlayStation was too much.
Yes.
It should be number 1 on my list, but it's not, purely for nostalgia, which
Right.
kills video games, as we know.
Yeah.
And me kind of pre-scripting this in my head in the hope that we could come to a harmonious ending. Go, oh no, we are both right, and skip off together into the
No.
sunset. And we're obviously not going to agree with each other because you ruined it before.
I already know what I think you're going to say now. But,
yeah.
But yeah.
Um,
So that's your second, is the PlayStation.
So I'll go to you. What's your number 1?
Did I say 2 and 3?
Yeah.
What did I say?
Game
thought I
Boy
just gave
Advance
one.
was your number 2.
Okay. I didn't give a 3.
And your third was Switch.
Okay.
So at Switch, Game Boy Advance, and then I stopped you before you went to number 1.
Okay. Right, I'm going to reorder that and probably say
We've been talking for 20 minutes and you already changed your mind.
I can't place them, but if I was going to say, I'd probably put Switch second and Game Boy Advance probably third.
Oh.
Purely because, like I said earlier, it bridges that gap between both.
Yeah.
You know, and really Switch should be my first, but because of nostalgia, it's not.
And that's the same reason I changed my order, really.
Yeah. So, and it probably is purely because of nostalgia.
Yeah.
I'd say the GameCube's my favorite console.
Oh.
I had a physical nosebleed when I got my GameCube.
That's excitement.
Seriously.
Wow.
And it was coming up to my birthday.
Yeah.
Back in, when was it? 2003, 2004?
You're testing me.
So I'm pretty sure GameCube was early 2000s. It might have even been earlier than that. It might have been 2002. I can't remember. Some early 2000 time when the GameCube came out. And I, again, being a handheld lover, I used to buy the Nintendo magazines.
Yeah.
Because that covered both.
Yeah.
And looking through. And then all the run up to the release of the GameCube, obviously they were promoting it. You know, all the promotional stuff, everything, all the Nintendo mags did like all these big spreads about it, going hype on it. And as a kid, I got the magazines And I was like, yeah. I was like, I need that. It's got a handle on it, right? Because it does. It's got a carry handle.
Yeah.
And so I was like,
a weird little briefcase.
yeah, it's just weird. And they did some weird celebrity promo shoot
Didn't
where they
they?
were all just like carrying GameCubes.
Who does that?
I don't know.
No
I think
one
it was like
moves it.
Paris Hilton and stuff like that. Just
Wow.
like holding GameCube. It was like really weird. But anyway, like I was like, I want that.
Yeah.
I want the handle. You know? So somehow convinced my parents that yes, I needed that. You know,
Needed is that was
needed
not
it.
wanted.
That's
to
it.
need it.
And I'm pretty sure it was at my birthday, and obviously I opened it, and I was that excited that my blood pressure was that high. I got a nosebleed that wouldn't stop, so I couldn't play the frickin' thing because I had to deal with the nosebleed. So I couldn't unbox it, you know, and set it up and stuff. But anyway, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it came with it. I don't think it launched at the same time or if it was later. I can't remember. But I got Super Mario Sunshine with the promotional T-shirt. Yeah.
Where's that?
Unfortunately, I got rid of it.
I mean, it wouldn't fit you now, but
Yeah, exactly. But I should have kept it.
Yeah.
But like the GameCube, I spent so much time on,
Mhm.
and it's still my favorite controller. Like I love the GameCube
it's a cool
controller.
controller.
It's
a
so
cool
good.
controller.
I mean, back then, obviously, it wasn't like twin stick, even though it had twin sticks. It wasn't.
Here's a question then.
Yeah.
Because in truth, PlayStation originally was my number one.
Yeah.
I changed it because I thought it was a really cool ending, but it's not anymore.
Yeah.
What is the better controller for its time as well?
Ooh.
The PlayStation controller, the original PlayStation controller, or GameCube controller? Because they are both phenomenal.
See, if we're talking original PlayStation controller,
Yes,
then I would say GameCube
because it doesn't have the analog
because
sticks.
it has the analog sticks. See, the very first PlayStation obviously
Yeah,
was before the dual.
yeah. Before DualShock.
But I mean, comfort level and everything, amazing. I
Yeah.
loved the PlayStation 1 controller, really like that. And then when the dual stick, I can't what do they call it? DualShock, that's it. The DualShock came out. That was mind blowing. And I remember,
Yeah.
because my brother had the PlayStation,
Yeah.
and I had handhelds because my brother's like 10, 11 years older. I remember getting the DualShock in my hands for the first time and feeling the smoothness of the
So
sticks.
weird, isn't it? Yeah.
And it was weird
Yeah.
because I was used to this weird clunky D-pad.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden, and it wasn't even a D-pad, it was like triangles, wasn't it, on the
Yeah.
PS1 controller? It wasn't an actual...
Yeah, it was like if you were to draw a picture of a house like as
Yes.
lines,
Yes, yeah.
square with like a
Yeah,
triangle.
so what I mean, it wasn't like a rocking
No, yeah,
D-pad like on a Mega Drive or something like that, was
yeah,
it?
yeah.
It was literally like little buttons, wasn't it? So going from that to then getting these sticks and like moving them around, it was like, whoa, this is weird.
Do you remember? I remember when I first got the DualShock controller. In fact, no, I tested it in one of the local game stores. Remember when they had like the kiosks you could play games?
Yeah.
Weren't they great? What happened to them?
I know. Probably got robbed.
I refused to use the analog sticks because I thought I couldn't control it as well.
Yeah, and I was the same. I remember my
It's like,
brother
no, it's
giving it to me.
harder.
My brother had MotoGP on the PlayStation
Yeah.
1 because, you know, he was really into motorbikes. And so I remember playing it and I was like, I can't do this.
It's too hard.
Because I think you could control the speed with one stick and then the
Oh.
direction with the other.
That's horrible.
And I'm like a kid going, dude,
Yeah.
I can't do it. Like I could play it before with the D-pad and the X button,
Yeah.
but now I've got to use sticks. It felt like I'd had amputee hands.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like it wasn't my hands. I couldn't do it. Obviously got used to it, but it was very weird. But yeah, so I loved the PlayStation controller. But yeah, the GameCube controller just fit because it's so weird, the shape of it. It fits so nicely. And it's got the analog triggers on the
Yeah.
back, you know, and then the C stick and the other stick, like they just felt so good. But it is difficult, but I'd still say GameCube controller is my favorite. But the GameCube for me, purely I'd say because of the amount of time I spent playing it as a home console and the games that it had, like Resident Evil 4, only for GameCube, you know, like
That still spins me out.
yeah, and the GameCube version is still the best version of Resident Evil 4 other than the remake.
Yeah.
Like, I think Digital Foundry did a video about it and how the original GameCube version was actually like graphically far superior than any HD release they remade later
Wow.
because they stripped it out.
Yeah.
And there's like, if you don't believe me, like look at it. I'm pretty sure it's on their channel, but also it's insane. Like the foliage, the way the wind blows through the trees and stuff, it is absolutely insane. Because I remember the HD remake far more because I played that on PC years later. But then when you look at the GameCube version, it is far superior. And it's weird because it was on an older system. And it's funny because I say GameCube's my favorite. It's like really poorly performing for Nintendo. And it was Nintendo's first like entry into like trying to be current with like up-to-date graphics and having power in their system. And it flopped for them. But for me, the games were amazing. So Resident Evil 4, incredible. F-Zero GX, masterpiece. Like that game I bought at Christmas one year, and I spent the whole Christmas period like glued to it. Like amazing music, like the graphics and stuff were just insane. Like what a game! Like that was so good. Mario Sunshine, like I know people hate on it. It's probably one of the most hated Mario games. It's my favorite Mario game.
It's weird that it gets
Like,
so much hate, actually.
It is, and yeah, okay, there were some bugs in it, but it's my favorite Mario game. I love that Mario game. I really do. So that was on there. There was so many games. Metroid Prime.
I was going to say, come
Metroid
on.
Prime 1, you know,
Yeah.
like, and 2 as well. Amazing. You know, like these games were just phenomenal. And that's why I was saying it's hard to differentiate between like the handheld and the console, because the day that Metroid Prime came out on GameCube was the same day or the day before or something like that they released Metroid Fusion on the Game Boy Advance. Like they've dropped two games at like the same time. It was really
The
weird.
Fusion's epic
Like,
on the
Fusion's
advanced side of it.
amazing,
It
yeah.
looks incredible.
Yeah, it's such a good game. So it was like weird, you know, but there's so many good games. And again, like I love Oddworld and Stranger's Wrath that they had on GameCube. Amazing. Luigi's Mansion 1, incredible. You know, there's all these massive titles, and I remember playing them and it really blew my mind. And I think it's because I came from the PlayStation 1 and GameCube was really PS2 era.
Yes.
But I didn't have a PS2.
Yeah.
And my brother, I'm pretty sure, had already moved out by then. And he had a PS2, but I didn't really get to experience it very much. So I went from PS1 to then up to what to me felt like was real next gen.
Yeah, what it
you know,
was.
which
yeah.
was GameCube. And like, even now when you look at Luigi's Mansions and stuff like that, it looks incredible. It's such a good looking game, even now. Like, and yeah, it was so cool. There was so many, I could probably list off so many other games if I actually like looked them up and remembered. But there's so many GameCube games that I look back as a kid and be like, those blew my mind and really made me love gaming.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And they've stuck with me. Like Resident Evil 4 is still my all-time up there. And Metroid. So you got Metroid Prime and Resident Evil 4 that released pretty much on the same console. Well, they did, you know, and they're like my two favorite games.
One day I'm going
It's
to ask you
crazy.
to pick between Metroids.
We'll have to play through both of them in their
Oh.
entirety. And then you can ask me that question.
Okay.
Because then you'll know.
Okay, can you guess then what my number one is?
Game Boy.
Yeah.
Thought so.
You gave no kind of build up to this, no drama. It's almost like we're not filming it. Game Boy. All right, you're speedy.
AJ earlier came up to me and went, I've got an idea for a podcast. I went, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, all right. I won't tell you then.
The only reason I thought that, and I was half expecting you to shoot me down, was earlier when I said, I don't think Game Boy Color would be up there. And you went, oh. And I went, oh, well, it's Game Boy then. For me, just to say why it's not in my list,
I'm surprised.
yeah, I didn't have a Game Boy one, you know, the original Game Boy.
And here's the thing, actually, when I reflected on my surprise, I was like, it was actually because there's a little bit of an age gap between us.
Yes,
There's
yeah,
probably
yeah, yeah.
slightly, Game Boy Color was more your time.
Yes, absolutely. Game Boy Color launched in 98, I think.
Yeah.
And that was my first ever system.
Yeah.
And Game Boy I'd only experienced at my parents' friend's house. So whenever they used to go over there to have like party night on a Friday or whatever, I would go with them.
Yeah.
And then I was left to entertain myself. And I can't remember what their names were, but the guy that was there, he had a PC which I could play solitaire on because that's all that was on it.
Boring.
Right? Yes. And I didn't understand what a mouse and keyboard was
Yeah.
because I was just like, like, you know, or he had a Game Boy with Tetris. So I was like, Game Boy. So,
And you know, Tetris is, well, it's one of the best-selling games.
I
think
loved
it is
it.
still the best-selling game of all
I
time.
think it might be, but I loved it. I'm
Yeah.
not bashing on Game Boy at all, but that's my only real experience of the first Game
For
Boy.
me, it was, I'll get this right, I think it was my older sister's, and she didn't play it anymore, so I played it
Yeah.
until I had the Game Boy,
Yeah.
and so I had some games I truly loved on that. Tetris was one of them. I'll just
Yes,
say
it was so good.
Kirby's Dream Land.
Yes, yeah.
It's an incredible game. And Curveball, which I know I've brought up to you before, still one of my favorite games of all time. Kirby's Pinball Land.
Yeah.
I don't really like pinball games,
No.
but that one was extra special.
Metroid Pinball.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Jesus, I
Genuinely is.
imagine that's awful.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
incredible.
Just Samus just been smashed around a table. Is that what it is?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Just in the super spin the whole time.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Great.
It's a great game.
I had the Game Boy and I loved it right up until I can't believe I'm going to say this.
Yeah.
I rage quit it
I
out of
remember you telling me-
existence.
I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
I'm sure it's Kirby's Pinball Land I was playing, and there obviously you go up through these levels and you have to keep yourself up this level to complete. You know, if you fall through the hole, then you go down a level below. It's really annoying. I got really frustrated with it because I'd fallen back down a level. I rage quit on it by switching it off and then squeezing the screen as hard as I could.
You did a Game of Thrones on it.
I did the Mountain and the Viper on
Yeah.
it, and I just felt it go crack, and then the crystal display just goes black. And I was like,
That's where they got the idea from for Game of Thrones, isn't it? They've watched you. Someone was driving past your house as you. And they went, one day,
and you know, I never told anyone about it
because you didn't want them to know you broke it.
because I would have gotten in a lot of
Yeah,
trouble because it wasn't even mine. So I hid it in the bottom of like a toy box or something.
Put something.
I put
heavy
loads of
on
stuff on it.
Yeah,
And I was like, hey, yeah.
just find a brick from outside and
Yeah.
just balance it on
Just
the
put it
screen
on there and left it.
under
And
someone else's bed.
yeah, and I guess they found it one day and went, oh no, it's broken. But since then, I have bought a game, as an adult, I have bought Game Boy and Game Boy Color. I think I've had it 4 times and I don't have one now. And that's not because I've sold any of them.
No.
That's because I've left them places, I've lent them to people.
Oh, God, yeah.
And now they're like 60 or 70 quid.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Re-
Isn't it?
very
'Cause I was
expensive.
going to buy one and I was like, nah.
Yeah, exactly the
Like-
same. I was like, I'll get a Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
And it was like 60 quid. I was like, oh, do you know, I'm not that much after nostalgia.
See, I've still got my original Game Boy Color that went with me everywhere, and annoyingly, it's got a scratched screen. And I know I could replace the
Yeah.
the plate on the front, but I'm like, but it's I put those scratches there. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, yes,
And I'm not
nice.
really gonna actually play it.
You can get the new
Like,
displays in them and stuff, can't
exactly,
you?
yeah.
And they'll look amazing, like you did with your Game Boy Advance.
Yes,
custom
exactly.
displays and stuff.
But I was like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna leave it as it is.
But beyond the nostalgia of that was the time for me in which I got to experience gaming on my own, being in a very busy house as a kid. It was like for you, it was just a little escape on your own.
Yeah,
handheld
absolutely.
gaming. I think the Game Boy changed a huge amount about gaming
Yeah.
in its time. I think it is responsible for a lot of what we see now. I mean, obviously, the obvious things is with handheld gaming.
Yes.
But also like that kind of more personal gaming experience where gaming is a slightly more private
It was, and I think that's the thing for me is because I spent a lot of time away from home when I was a kid, like doing stuff. I would always had my Game Boy Color, and as we've said many times before, that stupid little snake light that I
Yeah,
used to
awful
have,
thing, yeah.
because otherwise you'd be like sat in the car trying to wait for street lamps to go past,
Yeah, yeah.
like to see what you're doing, and it was like and then like you said, like being sat even under your bed sheets,
Yeah.
trying to play it with this stupid little lamp, you know, and be like, haha, I'm meant to be asleep, but really I'm playing my game. Whereas you couldn't just kick up the TV, have that humming away because
No.
it's like CRT.
Yeah,
you know, do you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like you couldn't just have the disc spinning away. Whereas with your Game Boy, you could just turn the volume down,
Yeah.
you know, and then go for it. It was like such a more like close personal experience.
A personal experience of the
Yeah.
game.
And no one really knew what you're playing. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah.
unless they sat right by you. Obviously now it's a bit different because you've got like really nice panels, OLED panel. You can sit at any angle and watch it. But with like the Game Boy, you had to be straight on to it.
Yeah, yeah.
You could not be at an angle.
I want to give some honourable mentions in it.
Yeah.
Firstly, to the Game Gear. The only reason it's not in my list is because I never actually owned one. I still lust after it now, and I know it's bad.
Mine is actually my brother's
Is it?
that he gave to me.
Yeah.
And
They're beautiful,
Amazing,
but
amazing.
they are awful as well.
yes. Oh yeah. But I mean,
by today's standards.
I've still got a handful of games for it.
yeah.
And they all suck other than Sonic 2. which I've got on it, and that is why I associate Sega with the start of that, because every time I turn the Game Gear on, I put Sonic 2 in.
And finally, just so I'm not alienating everyone who's listening, my final honourable mention, and it almost made it onto my list, is the PlayStation 4.
Right. Okay.
I just think it has the best selection of games
Yeah.
of the modern PlayStation era, like since PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
And I still now look for PS4 games because they're cheaper than PS5.
And you get free PS5 upgrades. But yeah, I mean, there's so many consoles. I mean, I have love for pretty much all of them, you know, at least ones that I've had.
Apart from the PS2.
Apart from the PS2. I don't even know if I owned a PS2, you know. No, I did. I did own a PS2 because I remember swizzling the PlayStation logo around.
You could turn it at night.
Yeah.
So you had a Slim.
I had the Slim. Yes, I did have the Slim.
Because that's the one you can turn the thing.
Yeah, and I always had it upright, I think. I can't remember. But yeah, I did have a Slim. Not for very long, though, I don't think. And then I don't remember. I had the PS3 later because that's
Chunky
when
boy?
I got that. The big one, because that's when I got GTA 5 on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I have love for them all. I even love like the Xbox 360 and the original Xbox, to be fair.
I do have an element of fondness for the Xbox 360. But it's also the reason I'll never touch Xbox. You can hate me all you like, and I'd never mention them in the best list because the games are bad. In fact, they do some things really well. Game Pass is a phenomenal idea.
Oh, what a cracking idea! Get it on Steam
and the
Deck.
idea of they can preserve old games is fantastic. But I've said it before. The amount of Xbox 360s I went through
the Red Ring of Death,
and they all did the same thing. It was beyond a joke. So after that, I was like, I'm not touching Xbox again.
It is stupid. But like hardware problems aside,
which is kind of fundamental to the best consoles.
Kind of. Yeah.
Apart from the flaws it has.
Apart from the fact it wouldn't turn on.
It would just overheat itself to death.
I mean, I did enjoy them. I just wanted to say, because we never really give Xbox love.
No.
And Xbox original, again, I think that was, the original Xbox that had a controller the size of a dinner plate.
Halo.
Halo.
That's all you need to say.
That wasn't even what I was going to say. But
was it not?
No.
Halo was phenomenal.
I was going to say Fable 1. But
okay. Yeah, no.
Halo 1 was really good.
Yeah.
But Fable 1 was better.
Well, this is definitely one that you can join in with. If you're watching on YouTube, let us know in the comments what your greatest console of all time is. And do you totally disagree with me that I'm obviously right and the Game Boy is the number one?
The Game Boy is amazing.
I can't believe you didn't agree with me. That's really disappointing me.
I'm still confused with my list.
You've changed it 3 times since we've been recording this. It's down the Switch, isn't it? Number one Switch.
Oh, I don't know.
It might be.
Yeah, maybe. No, I love the GameCube. But yeah, anyway, there we go.
Yeah. If you got to the deep end with us, it would mean the absolute world if you could rate the podcast wherever you found it. It really does massively help out what we do. And if you're on YouTube, you know what to do. The buttons are below, so hit them and tickle them and ring a bell. I don't know, all those other things. And I guess until the next time, we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. I was going to say something else, but there you go.
What were you going to say?
I don't remember now because you just changed my chain of thought.
It was just the way you went.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.